happening in your head, because leaders need vision, don't they? Leaders need vision. So I want you to visualize this little scenario that I'm creating for you. Okay, so if you trust your neighbor, close your eyes. If you trust me, close your eyes. And here comes the scenario. Ready? Close your eyes closed. I'll tell you when to open them. I want you to imagine a battlefield scene. Some kind of army or military battle scene. And I want you to imagine in that theater, in that construct, I want you to see a station for dealing with wounded soldiers. And it's a large tent for dealing with wounded soldiers. And it's nighttime. And there's a couple of lights lighting up the tent inside the area where the wounded soldiers find themselves. And I want you to picture a wounded soldier in a bed. And I want you to picture a quiet scene while that wounded soldier is lying in bed. And then I want you to picture, while that soldier's lying there, a nurse walking through the door. And the nurse walks in, and the nurse looks down at the soldier, and the nurse checks the vitals of the soldier. You seeing that? Vitals being checked. Nurse looking down, and the nurse begins to record the vitals. Okay, got that in your head? We got a nurse, we got a soldier, we've got a war scene, and we got vitals being recorded. You got all that? Open your eyes. All right. I'm going to check that. I've done this a little exercise. I've extended it a little bit in other settings, but I've done this little exercise a number of times. Raise your hand if the nurse was a woman. All right, put your hands down. Raise your hand if the soldier was a man. All right, put your hands down. How about this? This is where it gets really interesting, and it's a little dicey sometimes. Can't always tell. Raise your hand if the nurse was recording data on a clipboard. Raise your hand if the nurse was recording data on some kind of electronic device. Oh, you digital natives, you. Look at those look at the arms up again in those look at these technology people. All right, what from that little exercise, and I'm telling you about leadership and vision. What does that point out to you when you think about how almost everybody in the room saw a female nurse and a male soldier? What does that tell you about our mental models or our mindsets as leaders? What?
Preconceived notions.
We have preconceived notions. Someone else. Good. Traditional what? Okay. Traditional archetypes. Okay. We have certain expectations, don't we? See, what we've come to find out about learning and leading and leadership is that so much of the decisions you make as a leader is driven by the mental models you bring to the job. Okay, and don't leave here feeling bad, because I mean almost everybody sees the same thing that you saw. And you don't want to beat yourself up for mental models that you have, but you have to recognize that prism or those mental models are shaping everything that you do as a leader. So the more we understand about how mental models are developed and how they're used and how they're applied, the better we're able to negotiate leadership decisions. And I did a little miniature version of that with my friend. And then I also told him, do you think that leadership studies have changed a little bit in the last 10 years when we've finally been able to study the human brain while it's been alive? See, today we used to, up to about 10 or 15 years ago, we couldn't study the human brain without cutting someone's head open after they were gone. Now we can study the human brain and we can tell what part of your brain is activated during certain kinds of activities. And we know a whole lot more about what moves us and how we can learn something new. So in the last 10 years, we've literally reframed everything we know about learning. So if we know a whole lot more about learning individually and as a group, does that change what we need to know about what we need to do as leaders? Yeah, maybe. If you want your group to learn something new or do something unique, they have to be able to learn and do new things. So if we know a whole lot more about learning, we have to investigate what that means to leading. So we're going to begin with an expansion of that exercise. And this is the first main point of the three that I want to share with you, and it has to do with mental models, leadership and mental models. And I think as a leader, I'm going to challenge you to think deeply about the three mental models I'm going to share with you this morning. And the first one is, I'm not going to have you close your eyes again because I want to keep this thing moving a little bit. But the first I want to share with you is the mental model around the term leadership. Now, I've asked groups to work on this for extended periods of time when I've had the time with them to work. And I ask them, when you hear the term leadership, and I ask you to visualize something, because learning can be a very visual activity, I ask you to visualize what you see when I say leadership. And I've asked groups to even draw pictures and be really dedicated to evaluating that. What kind of pictures do you think I get when I ask people to draw me a picture of leadership actually happening? What's that? So if it's a person, if they make it a person, it's almost always a male. What are you seeing? Tell me what you see. You say a powerful presence. What's that look like if you were drawing that up?
An erect posture, a big voice.
Big voice, erect posture. We have male-oriented. Anything else if you're drawing a picture of leadership?
Authoritative, and it comes from top down, and it comes from above down.
But they see leadership as something reaching down and kind of grabbing people and making them do something. Okay, someone else with their hand up. One more.
I see a picture of many people with a leader, but it's more collaborative.
Okay. You see a picture of many people with the leader? I've done this dozens and dozens and dozens of times, and it almost more than half the time people draw pictures of some figure. And the figure oftentimes is male, and the figure oftentimes is manipulating things, moving things around. Okay? That's the mental model that we bring into leadership. Okay? And does that affect how you lead? If that's your prism, just like we talked about seeing a male soldier and a female nurse, if your prism or expectation is that this is what you do, then that changes things, doesn't it? I was a high school principal when I was 30 years old, and I had two teachers pull me aside, and one teacher said, if you really want to be a good principal, you'll get out there at 7:15 with a clipboard, and you'll catch all those rotten teachers who are late. Because that will put the fear of God in them, and that will straighten them out, and that's what a leader needs to do. And another teacher pulled me aside and said, young fella, you want to be successful here, you need to love and respect your teachers. You need to treat them like professionals. You need to empower them and support them. See, even the people that you lead have different visions of what they expect from a leader, don't they? Let me give you a couple ideas about leadership that may help you construct your own mental perspective. Because as a leader, I'm going to urge you that you have to be really clear about the mental model that you have for your own role. How do you see yourself as a leader? Because that will negotiate how you behave. Because others are going to have various perspectives of what they expect. But the first is, and this is in the literature, and I've got some references I'll list at the end, but if you can see leadership as a force, not a position, you'll constantly be reinforced that leadership is associated with one person, one position, and I cannot lead in my organization until I achieve a certain position. But in reality today, places like